table. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
And watch your tone.
Voice of Phil. All right.
Voice of Phil, VOP.
Voice of Phil is VOP.
The VOP.
The VOP.
Yeah, we
All
know.
right, gentlemen, we are recording.
We know.
Ready to start.
Thank
Phil a
you.
voice.
I'm ready to start.
POV.
Phil a voice. VOP. Don't Google search that.
Okay. Anyway. So, which camera?
This
there
one
we go.
right here.
Camera one.
All right.
Camera two.
Hey everyone, here's another episode of Pop Culture Talk. The Great Stories team back at you after a 3-month layoff. Layoff? Yeah, you all got fired. I got fired too, actually. Shadow Boss.
I mean, to be fair,
Shadow Boss does not tolerate.
To be fair, I did diminish my responsibilities at the shop. So, kind of.
That's demotion. I didn't even work there, so.
Oh, gosh.
See, he couldn't get laid
Yeah, I'm
off.
fine.
We're going downhill already.
I think it was
All
more
right.
like a hiatus. Hiatus.
We have a, hiatus. So if you haven't watched the Comic Shop Talk video, and you skipped right over to pop culture because you can't read, or you don't like reading, and you don't like hearing about reading, then you're hearing this for the first time. Yes, we're in a new surroundings.
Yep.
Here at Uxbridge Public Access TV. And Barry Giles is in the booth right now helping us out, work all this like fandangled equipment that we don't know how to use. And actually, I didn't mention Pierce behind camera
Pierce.
one over there. We're pointing at him. The light's not on him right now, but he's turned sideways so we can't see him because he's so skinny. Anyway.
It's a call out.
I know, that's just
Gonna go
Sorry,
home and
Pierce.
solid
stress
diss.
That's a compliment, man. It's a compliment.
I'm the one who's
I'm
gonna
jealous.
have to deal
I'm
with it. I'm
jealous
gonna go
'cause I put on
home
a
and
lot
he's
of
gonna be
weight.
like, oh, that Chris.
And anyway, we got Phil in the booth as well.
Hello, everyone.
Fill in the booth.
Oh my gosh, where'd that voice come from?
You'll never know.
So so here we are in for our first time in Public Access Television Studios.
Second time,
And technically this is the second video, but same night, so whatever.
Counts.
Anyway, we should probably change our shirts, make it look like we're filming on various different occasions.
Should I
right?
just
Yeah, we'll
swap
just swap shirts.
We'll
between
swap
each other.
shirts. Yes, that works.
I feel bad for wearing my
I
shirt.
feel left out because I'm the only
You're gonna
one
feel
here
very
not wearing a
exposed.
Deadpool shirt. Anyway, so yes,
Oh, yeah, that's pretty loose.
Pop Culture Talk. So here we are, March 3rd, and there's a lot actually happening and upcoming.
Yes.
And we're going to lead off right now with a little bit of speculation as opposed to, delving into deeper content. But it's Captain Marvel. We're all about Captain Marvel right now.
Yes.
And Marvel's very excited to basically thrust their version of, or their answer, I should say,
Yeah.
to Wonder
I
Woman.
would not call it an answer to Wonder Woman. I feel like Wonder Woman is kind of an answer to Black Widow, even though Black Widow doesn't have her own movie. Black Widow is a very strong female character, very driven, very deep character from the MCU. And they did pull out all stops when they made Wonder Woman, and it was a fantastic movie, absolutely worth watching multiple times over. But I don't know if we're gonna see the same kind of heat coming from Brie Larson in Captain Marvel.
So you're a Brie Larson doubter. That's what you're saying.
I don't necessarily like her as a human being, and that's purely based on the way she interacts with people in the real world.
Okay.
Now, that being said, everybody doubted Heath Ledger when he was given the role as the Joker. I myself am the biggest of Heath Ledger fans, so I of course didn't doubt him, but he shut everybody up when that movie finally came out.
But you just made a
And
comment about Brie Larson.
There's a chance that Brie Larson might surprise me. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt here.
So just so we're clear, this isn't like a personal thing. This is about her. You doubting her skills as an actress.
Yeah. So she got an Emmy for Hereditary or The Room. The Room. She was in a movie called The Room, and she got an Emmy for that. So I guess she's a good actress. But I've seen the trailers, and I'm not overly impressed with her portrayal of Carol Danvers. But like I said, I'm waiting to see what she actually brings to the table as far as the full movie goes, because I might be pleasantly surprised.
I think she looked pretty good punching a Skrull in the face. I don't know about you. But
Yeah, I agree.
That kind of got me a little hyped up.
I think part of it is that people just aren't as familiar with the character of Captain
Yeah.
Marvel.
True.
This is really the first high-profile Captain Marvel character we've seen on the screen. We've had Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel in the comic world for the better part of a decade at this point.
Yep.
So
a huge role in Secret Empire.
yes.
Yeah.
So as comic fans, I think we're a lot more in tune with this character than maybe the general public is. That's seeing her for the first time and just being like, oh, so it's basically like female Captain America, but it's not. I mean, I don't know what we're gonna get from the movie. I'm obviously optimistic about it. Like, when's the last time a Marvel movie's like disappointed to the point where you're like, that was like unwatchable?
I feel like this is another Guardians of the Galaxy moment, because this is a lesser known property. I mean, you had a lot of people in the last Civil War. No, all right. Yeah, the comic readers know Captain Marvel. Not doubting that, all right? I mean, in Civil War, Carol Danvers is Tony Stark's right-hand person.
Yep.
In the mounting the Registration Act efforts. All right? I mean, she's top cop basically. And then fast forward to Civil War II. She is the headliner.
Yeah.
This time going against Tony Stark.
Right.
So in the comics, Captain Marvel has been given a lot of high-profile roles.
Yeah.
But for the movie viewing audience, they don't know who Carol Danvers is. They don't know Captain Marvel. They're, they would think, I've talked to people, Captain Marvel, oh yeah, it's a guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's like,
it's-
the Shazam guy,
Yeah,
you know.
they're
like-
thinking Shazam. when
Exactly.
you say Captain Marvel.
So I think, I think
And
that's
so-
something that the movie will have to contend with.
When you have Nick Fury, before he fades away at the end of the last Avengers movie,
Yeah.
he's sending a signal out, and the signal shows Captain Marvel's symbol, and unless you're a comic book reader, you didn't know what that was. People are like, what was that all about?
Sure.
Had no idea, so I got excited, I was like,
Me too.
"Oh, awesome,
So now this
But
film is supposed to
this-
be taking place like
In the 90s.
in the 90s.
Yep.
So
So this is going to
what-
go into the background.
What I'm curious
Yep.
to see is how they're going to discuss the issue of her presence not being there for the better part of 2 decades.
Sure.
So that'll be speculation,
Especially
right?
if
But
she's such a big character that you have Nick Fury calling her in at the last second at the end of Infinity War. Like, why hasn't
Yeah.
she been there? Like, so that's a question that I have.
Okay,
That
so
I'd like to see addressed.
being from the comic background, there seems to be a natural fix to this, and that she's been off dealing with intergalactic threats to protect Earth. Because that's where she spent a lot of her time in the comic books.
But if that was true, she probably would have been aware of Thanos crashing his way across the universe and probably would have realized, hey, it's
Potentially.
coming to my home planet.
I think they're going to have
Potentially.
a lot of work to do in
Let's hope that the
discussing.
film addresses that.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I-
somehow links that into
Yeah.
into the storyline that we see before us.
I think it'll have to, right? Because this is the last movie that we're going to get before
Yeah,
Endgame
they're
comes out.
putting it right up against the Endgame's coming
Yes.
out next month, right?
And it seems like this would be, we know that a lot of the MCU characters, they're coming to an end.
Yep.
We're going to probably see the end of Iron Man, probably see the end of Cap, end of Thor. Who knows who else? But Marvel movies will definitely need to have a new place to go.
Yep.
And with them, with Disney getting the rights back to from the Fox characters like the Fantastic Four,
Yes.
the X-Men, this would be a good segue for them to take more of the cosmic role and kind of head off to space.
Yep.
Now I think we're seeing Skrulls in this, so
Yep.
if we get
Skrulls,
to see
yes,
Skrulls,
yeah.
we're probably gonna see the Kree race.
Yep.
That'd be a natural segue into Fantastic Four. So
Yep.
it could be a good lead-in. We'll maybe even see Alpha Flight. It'll be a good lead-in to like the next phase of whatever Marvel movies will be, and I think it'll be definitely the cosmic universe will play a big role in that.
Absolutely. But I think this just has the potential to, take people by surprise, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy did. Because honestly, when that movie came out, I was like, really?
Who are these-
Guardians of the
who are these
Galaxy?
guys?
Like, I never read a Guardians of the Galaxy
I was actually kind of
book.
excited for that. I was
like-
like, oh, these are people that were relatively unknown to me, so I looked into them. I was like, all right, I kind of like these characters. And then
Yeah.
the movie came out, and I kid you not, I sat down and started laughing within like the first 30 seconds of the movie, and I did not stop laughing until I was home.
That's when
was
he's like
so
runs away
good.
from his parents. You're just like,
Yeah, it was hilarious to me.
But this movie is going to have the
Tragedy.
same advantage that Guardians did, in the sense that a lot of people aren't going to come in with a preconceived notion of what this character should be.
yeah, we're kind of for the first time
They
in a long
get to
time,
define it.
We're getting an origin story again.
Yes.
I mean, when's the last origin story movie we had from Marvel?
Ant-Man, I think.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah, man.
probably.
Yeah, which was
That's probably right.
3-ish years ago. It was a while.
Before Civil War, so
I mean,
it was-
we kind of got one in the form of Black Panther, but not really, because we kind of see him becoming Black Panther during Civil War.
okay.
Right.
But even then, I think he had already taken the mantle from his father, although that's not technically how it's done in the comics. But again, MCU is different. But yeah, I guess so. Kind of in a way, I would give a sort of origin story to Black Panther, but aside from that, really, it was probably Ant-Man.
Yeah. So this is going to be really an opportunity to they get to define this character to a brand new audience. And that's going to be a really major like trump card that they hold for this particular movie. So
Plus,
anyway,
it's their first female-led movie, right?
Yeah, full
yes,
solo lead, female-led.
that's correct.
I like that
And-
we have Nick Fury kind of set in the background to be kind of her co-star in the
Yep.
same way that we had Chris Pine with Gal Gadot.
Yep.
So I'm looking to see. I mean, I love me some Samuel Jackson. So I'm excited to see how the two are gonna mix together. I feel like Carol Danvers' character is gonna be kind of serious based on what I've seen. So having the kind of like semi-serious,
You know what makes me believe that it's not going to be that serious? So out of the early reviews
Yeah.
for a movie, like one of the characters that apparently is like stealing the show is the cat.
Yeah, the
Chewie.
cat. The
I've
cat.
heard this.
So
yes.
apparently they have, they're going to have a cat that's supposedly like just completely lovable and hysterical. You got to imagine that it's going to be a kind of humor spend to the movie.
I'm sure there will be. I just hope it doesn't all come from
Yeah.
the cat.
Well,
Well, I mean, it was Wonder Woman outside of her like woman out of like time jokes, like she wasn't that funny, and that was still a damn good movie.
That's fair. Okay, that's a good point.
Tyler, to possibly answer your question about origin stories,
Yeah.
I did some fact checking, and apart from Black Panther, it seems to be the last origin story was actually Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Is that an origin though? Is that an origin story
They didn't
though?
do the him getting
Doctor
bitten
Strange.
or him getting
Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor
Yes.
Strange. Okay.
Yep. That's a good.
Fair
point.
enough. Okay.
Yep.
Thank
we'll
you.
take Doctor Strange.
You're welcome.
That'll
Thank you, voice of Phil.
fill a voice.
Fill a voice.
Fill a voice.
Anyway, so we have Captain Marvel on the dockets here. It's
Yep.
coming out very soon, about a week from now.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
right?
excited.
It drops.
No.
It drops. Is
I
it?
thought on the 8th. I thought it was the 8th.
It comes out this Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today's the
so-
third.
March 8th.
Yep, March 8th. So I think we should probably have an outing. I think the team needs to go see Captain Marvel.
I thought we were already doing that.
Oh yeah, we're doing that.
Oh, we can do like
Yeah.
the thing when we did.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yes,
exactly.
we
I
can.
think we should
watch
do that.
it and then just crap on it
Come out and be like,
for like
wow,
20
that
minutes
was
on
awful.
video. That was
Just
so
don't-
bad.
We just can't bring Brandon
That
with
cat
us.
was annoying.
Lord.
No,
Larson
actually, we
was
should
great,
bring Brandon
but-
with us and film it.
I was gonna say, let Brandon just be very angry at this Marvel movie. as he is wont to do.
We would like to start bringing in some special guests to each one of our shows, and so we have a nice list of characters that could probably really add to to the entertainment factor here.
We're going to be making our own Great Story cinematic universe.
That is,
Great
yeah,
stories.
exactly,
Cinematic universe.
exactly. So
Yeah.
anyway, so Captain Marvel, I'm sure you'll be joining us at the theaters. Based on advanced ticket sales, I think a lot of you have already made that decision. So, so it's going to light it up, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we're going to go to the smaller screen actually, and we're going to talk about some news that just broke over the last few weeks. We've been kind of seeing hints of it over the last couple months, but Netflix and Marvel are kind of ending their partnership. We've seen with the release of Daredevil Season 3 and Luke Cage Season 2, right? Season 2
Yeah.
of Luke Cage? They announced the cancellations of those properties, as well as Iron Fist.
Actually, at this point, it's everything because we
and-
just lost Punisher
And then
and Jessica Jones.
Exactly, because Punisher, which was interesting because they had waited until after the premieres of most of these shows to announce the cancellations, and then but they already announced the cancellation of Jessica Jones ahead of the premiere of Season 3.
Right.
So that was a little bit out of step, but I think there were some business reasons for that. But I'd like to just say that it was not due to the quality of the programming. It was not
Absolutely
due to
not.
the viewership of the programs, which they were getting great ratings and a lot of viewership.
Yeah, Netflix is real hush-hush about their viewership numbers, so we don't really know exactly how many times they've been watched or whatever, but
Right.
Safe to say it's
Yeah.
pretty high.
Yeah, I think they were some of the stronger shows. I mean, they were definitely costly shows for Netflix to make, as has been announced anyway. They've publicly said that. But so we assumed a lot that Disney Plus factors into perhaps some of the reasons why these shows are ending at Netflix.
Disney Plus
As-
being Disney's response to Netflix, their own streaming platform.
Yeah.
Correct, yes. So DC, of course, has already announced their streaming platform, and actually they've
They
got
have
it
it,
launched.
yeah.
They already have it.
It's really good too, and they have some high-profile stuff going on there.
And that's
a Little
definitely,
Mermaid.
I think we're going to have to be talking about that in a
Little
future
Mermaid.
show
Did
because
they,
there's
did they got the Little Mermaid? Because
a Little Mermaid.
DC, I don't think DC owns the rights to Little Mermaid yet.
Um,
Oh, Mera?
Mera.
I'm talking about,
I know.
Listen,
So-
we all know Aquaman is the Little Mermaid, okay? Let's move on from there and keep talking.
Mera's the Little Mermaid.
Yeah, she's got that. She's
got the red hair thing going.
Yeah,
Yes, she does. So, I'm sure we're going to save the DC platform for a future talk.
Or never.
Or never. No.
I like Aquaman.
There's a lot of good stuff being announced on DC, so I think it's going to be unavoidable. We'll be talking about it. But,
Yeah.
you
When
know,
something comes out, I want to talk about it.
but here's the thing. Where do these shows go? Where do these characters go in terms of a movie or TV platform? Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Punisher, Daredevil, Iron Fist, the Defenders, and all the whole subcast of characters.
Elektra.
Elektra, Colleen Wing.
Yeah.
Misty
Knight.
Misty Knight. You've got a lot of really great characters here that, could potentially be seeing an end to a media presence for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, does Disney decide to go to, bring these to the Disney Plus channel? Do they farm it out to Hulu? Does their contract with Netflix allow for these things to actually happen?
I think in the contract, right, I believe we talked about this before, that there was basically a period after the contract ends where Disney can't use that IP for new shows. And I think it was 2 years?
A 2-year period, and that was our understanding of it is that the original Defenders characters,
Right.
the Defenders shows, or I'm sorry, the Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones were signed under a deal that once they were canceled, for a period of 2 years, they could not be used.
Right.
Yes. Our understanding is that Punisher was not signed under this deal. I don't know what deal they were signed under, but anyway, that leaves a lot of concern actually, because I think that that Netflix did an admirable job in casting wonderful talent to represent these characters. The iterations we saw on the screen were very effective, and I think have left us a lasting impression of what they should be. And I would think it would be a criminal shame to not have some of these actors be able to continue their roles.
I mean, there was a lot of storylines. Like, I actually was excited to see what was going to happen in Iron Fist season 3. Like, they left it on such a cliffhanger for me, giving Colleen Wing an Iron Fist that she can, move through her sword, and then you've got Rand, whose name I can't think of for whatever reason right now. The actual Iron Fist, like using the Iron Fist.
Danny Rand?
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Danny using the Iron Fist through like a gun and like curving bullets using the Iron Fist. Like that last, although his cheesy line at the very end left me wanting.
It was a little
but it was
offbeat
exciting.
ending, but it was.
Getting to see, getting to see a lot of characters that truly, like, you could track their development across the seasons. It was awesome.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I feel like we're going to miss now.
Yeah, their stories, in my mind, are not complete yet, and they could have offered a lot more in terms of, once their story arcs were complete, even as supporting characters and other, larger ensemble type of creations, which would be great. So, time will tell.
You hope that they bring these characters back and they bring these IP back, and you hope that they bring back the same actors because that's what we will remember.
All right.
But at the same time, you also think that Disney's kind of want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
They're going to want to establish their own presence, maybe even reboot these characters. Why would they want people to remember the old Netflix shows when they have an opportunity to kind of start afresh and get everyone on board?
I think we have a hard time with that.
Me too. I agree. Yeah. I don't think that's not definitely what I prefer, but I think that's probably the reality that we're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it could be a calculated business move, but Jeff Loeb, who I guess is the head of Marvel TV, he's the director of Marvel TV, if that's the right title, I'm not really sure. Apologies if it isn't, but he was quoted as saying, with the announcement of the last cancellations for the Jessica Jones and Punisher, he made a statement basically saying, anyone who knows comic books knows that this is not the end.
Yeah.
And you will be seeing these characters again. And it was kind of it was a very general statement, but I think it gave maybe some people a glimpse of hope that it wouldn't be too long. That maybe there were already plans, to bring them back. I'm obviously a huge Punisher fan. I would still want to see John Bernthal. I thought he was the best person. I didn't realize that I was going to like someone better than Thomas Jane, in that role, but he really nailed it. And I think it would be a shame if he did not take up that skull and that.
Especially considering how long they took just to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, he really fleshed out that character.
Yep. He did. So we'll see. I'm sure you guys out there are probably as disappointed as we are to see the end of some of these shows. But with every ending, there's a new beginning. It's almost like a rising from the ashes Phoenix thing. Like, we should talk about the Dark Phoenix.
Do we have
like,
to?
We didn't really talk. Yeah.
Do we have to?
We're getting a sour face from Ken over here.
Okay, so have we all seen the latest trailer?
Yeah.
Yes.
It didn't look very good. I'm sorry, and I like Sophie Turner. I like her fine, but she was not good in the first X-Men. I did not.
No, she struggled holding that accent.
I really didn't. I just didn't connect with her as Jean Grey, and I think it has less to do with Sophie Turner than just like what I have in my mind of who Jean Grey is.
Kind of. she's kind of got like this almost like good girl vibe to her, like nice and doesn't want to get on anybody's nerves. And,
Well, that
you know,
might
just try
actually
to
work for this
keep
role.
to herself.
Doesn't that kind of help with this role?
I don't know. I mean,
does.
my Jean Grey was always kind of like, don't get in my way. Not mean about it, but like, still kind of strong, and I didn't get that vibe.
Say, is it Famke Janssen, who did the original Jean Grey from the original X-Men movies?
Oh yeah, I don't remember how to pronounce her name.
She kind of looked a little bit like she could be kind of a, you know,
A not nice
say it.
a
person.
not nice person. Yeah,
I can
exactly.
see your mouth like making
Yeah,
the letter.
I don't want to trigger anyone out there. So, but she didn't have that that sense of like, oh yeah, she's like a totally like good girl, like
Yeah.
Sophie does, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that with the Dark Phoenix, the introduction of the Dark Phoenix character, that might actually play to to that favor of having these two completely polar opposites, you know, and
Technical issues.
technical issues. And
No, I think, and actually, to your point, now that you say that, that's actually a good point. That she does actually play a bit more of an innocent role, so making her transformation into the Dark Phoenix actually feel a bit more
Perhaps.
tragic,
Maybe, yeah.
than it was when it was like the harder Jean. Because, I mean, when you think about the original Jean Grey, like the original X-Men team, the 1960s, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby X-Men
Yep.
team, they were teenagers.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
there's
right.
just a bunch of kids. They don't really know any better. They're trying to go out and fight some old man's dream about saving the world.
Yep.
You know, they're very naive and young and innocent, which Sophie does do a good job at.
yeah.
But I just didn't really connect with her emotionally, I guess. Like, I never felt this connection with the character Jean Grey. And that, I think,
That's
was tough, because I really wanted that movie to be good. I wanted Age of Apocalypse to be good.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It wasn't a good movie.
No, it really wasn't a good movie.
It was. There's just unremarkable, right? Like, what was the coolest part of that movie?
Probably like
The end?
Magneto sitting there with like the arcs of metal swarming around him. That was pretty.
That was kind of neat.
That was pretty neat. But
Yeah.
like, these like the coolest parts were all like these neat CG moments, like Psylocke, like, you know, cutting the car in half.
Yeah.
Or Magneto spinning the metal around him. Or
Yeah.
the stuff with Quicksilver.
You
I
know,
feel like that's less to do with the actors and more about the direction of like how they were told to act. Because I feel like they're all pretty decent actors. It's it's more about the director than the actor in that kind of situation.
Yeah, good point.
Fair
I'm not,
enough.
maybe putting the onus on Sophie Turner is not right, but
Fair
the way
enough,
they portrayed
fair
the
enough, yeah.
character didn't quite jive with me, I guess.
Okay.
So not.
It's-
I don't have high expectations.
it's funny. You guys are talking about the coolest moments of of the Apocalypse movie, and honestly, I don't even remember those moments you're talking about. That's how unremarkable that movie was to me. It was literally in my head and out of my head.
Yeah.
It was gone. You know, so
Didn't leave an impression.
no, not at all. That
And I
being
expected
said,
it to.
that being said, I did think the trailer looked really good for Dark Phoenix, so I do have high hopes for it. Yeah, and I know you skeptical. I know, Ken. It's all right. Well, I guess we won't be doing a team outing for that movie, huh?
Probably not.
Well,
Well, I think this will be the last of the Fox X-Men movies, so
yeah. Well, is it the last of the Fox X-Men movie?
I think so.
Are New Mutants? New Mutants got filmed. Did it just get canned?
Oh no, New Mutants will come out, but I'm not sure whether that's coming out as movie format. Maybe it might come out on the streaming platform.
Possibly.
It seems like that was a really high budget movie. Seems like it'd be a waste if they put that all just on a TV show.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that one. I know it got delayed, and
Ton of reshoots.
yeah, I'm not sure if it'll see the light of day, especially since I believe the acquisition. Actually, it might see the light of day because the acquisition of Fox Films by Disney, I think, has been completed now. So we might see it yet, but or maybe Disney decides they don't like it and they want to do away with it. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Just checked in.
Yes.
It looks to be that Dark Phoenix is the last of the Fox X-Men movies that are going to be released.
I guess New Mutants. I don't know. New Mutants not technically an X-Men movie, right?
Right.
I'm not
Right.
seeing anything about that one on there. winner, so
Yep. Or maybe it's just that this is the last one that Fox is actually going to make money off of. So, at any rate, delving back into the small screen, because we were just talking about Netflix and how Netflix did such a wonderful job with some of these Marvel characters. Now, they seem to be pushing, since Disney is reacquiring their properties. That's not it for Netflix and comic properties, however. They are going full steam into indie world, particularly Mark Miller Productions.
Or Mark Millar.
Mark Millar, excuse me. Bad Chris.
Same guy. He's probably not watching.
Miller,
either.
Millar. He's probably not watching, yeah, that's true, but
He's sitting at home watching this. Like, who's guy?
I'm going to get that guy in Uxbridge for mispronouncing my name, except he would say that in a accent that I can't replicate.
I think he's British.
Yeah, I think he's British. So anyway.
Oi!
I think
I think it's Australian.
my name.
Blimey.
Who's this Chris Millar?
All right. Anyway, so I know between the three of us, we've all been watching some different shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
That have involved some of these indie titles, and the two that we're going to be talking about here, Deadly Class and Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, which have different premises, despite them both being about schools.
Yep.
So, I haven't seen Umbrella Academy. I have no idea.
I haven't seen Deadly Class.
I'm assuming it's
just,
about a school for umbrellas.
Yeah, it's a bunch of umbrellas that go to school.
It's Mary Poppins.
Very weird, yeah.
My son actually got excited because he thought it was a Resident Evil type of thing.
Oh, that's good.
I got to
the
admit,
Umbrella Corporation?
I kind of had the same thought.
Yeah.
No, nothing to do with Resident Evil.
No,
Nothing
no,
at all.
sadly.
So tell me, what is Umbrella Academy about? I haven't seen it yet.
So the essential background of it is that somewhere in the, I think, 1980s, 43 women across the world spontaneously became pregnant all at the same time, despite the fact that none of them were pregnant when the day began. That's actually a line from the series.
They all became pregnant?
They all just
And
suddenly became
gave
pregnant
birth
and
within
gave
the
birth.
confines of one day.
So you have this this billionaire that fancies playing around with different sciences and whatnot, and finds this phenomenon to be so incredible. He decides he wants to try and adopt as many of these children as he can.
Except he doesn't really adopt them, does he?
He basically buys them.
Yes.
But
So he adopts them.
so he ends up getting
so many
7
words.
of these children, and they quickly discover that each of these children have different abilities.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he dedicates all of his time, energy, and resources to training these kids essentially to become superheroes. And now, fast forward, I think it's 17 years or such later. I don't know.
The kids are grown up at this point.
The kids are grown up.
The kids are grown up.
They're probably in their, when we're seeing in
20s.
present day, they're in their 20s
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah.
It was 17 years since the academy first began.
Yeah,
not
they're probably in
since
their
he
late
adopted
20s now.
them. But that could also be totally wrong. But anyways, basically, he has died, which has become a catalyst for bringing this now broken family back together.
Yes.
And they're all starting to deal with these different issues that have come up due to events during their childhood, which includes both the death of one of the children and the total disappearance of another one.
So maybe we should go over who some of the characters are and what their strange abilities are.
Okay. So you have number 1, who his mother has given him the name Luther, who initially just has incredible strength. When we meet him in the present day, however, he also has a strange mutation, which we find out later is due to an accident that had occurred during a mission that he was on solo. And in order to save his life, he was injected with a serum that basically made him look like a gorilla from the neck down.
Cool.
Very hairy, almost kind of like a Hyde-esque
Yes.
character. Very hairy, very muscular, tight leathery skin. So he is
The de facto leader of the team. At least as a child, he was.
Yes.
And now there are a bunch of individuals.
You have number 2 that I can't remember. It was Klaus or Allison. I think it was Allison.
I believe Allison was number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allison is, she has this ability
Rumor.
where she can say, oh, I heard a rumor, and this initiates a sort of power that allows her to mind control people, power of suggestion. So one of the first times you see her use abilities when they're little kids, they're stopping a bank robbery, and she tells one of the robbers, I heard a rumor that you're going to shoot your friend, and then he turns around and shoots one of the other robbers in the leg. And you find out later on in life that she uses this ability on her own daughter out of frustration with, young children can be difficult to handle at times, even for the best of parents. And she decides, well, one time won't hurt if I just to get her to calm down. And it kind of escalates until her husband decides that this is a huge issue, and what we know of her is that they're now divorced.
Divorce, and she loses custody.
He has custody of the daughter. Yeah. She's doing very well for herself, having become a movie star, I'm sure, completely of her own abilities.
Sure.
Which she's one of my favorite characters. When she was first introduced, I'm like, oh, you got this kind of like self-absorbed pop star kind of character, and she turns out to be one of the most relatable characters.
I think she's a character that comes across as being very contrite for, and the fact that she's made some mistakes, and she realizes that, maybe her fame was questionably acquired, and she has a lot of regret.
I heard a rumor that my movie was really good.
Yes.
Just chiming, guys. That's actually number 3.
Oh, number 3. So, all right. So, since we skipped number 2, then the real number 2, which is kind of funny actually that he's number 2, because he's really in the gutter, isn't he?
So number 2, please correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, voice of Phil. Number 2 is Klaus. Yes.
Diego.
Oh, darn! That makes Klaus number 4. So Diego.
He kind of acts like number 2.
Diego is kind of your uptight, rebellious son who pretty much hates his father for everything that he forced them to do. He has this ability, and I don't know how far it extends, but he uses this ability. He throws knives, and then he can control the exact point that they go to. So like it's
almost like Angelina Jolie in Wanted.
And it'll start to spin and then suddenly change direction, and he always hits his target exactly where he wants it. I don't know if that extends to all metallic.
Just knives?
Maybe it's just knives. That's all we've seen so far.
He's the indie Hawkeye.
Yeah, no.
With knives.
With knives.
With knives.
Can't afford the bow, so.
No. Nope.
But he's very very self-assured, he wants to do everything his own way.
Yep.
And he, later on in life, decides that he's going to continue helping people, being a hero, stopping the bad guys, but he's doing it entirely on his own, entirely his own way, and that's how he wants to make amends for the perceived crappy childhood that he had, basically to be his own person.
Yep.
So then moving on to number 4, who is Klaus.
Correct.
Thank you. Klaus is an interesting character.
Yeah.
When you're first introduced to him, he's getting out of rehab and immediately goes and purchases more drugs. He spends the majority of his time either completely drunk or completely high. And we quickly find out that the reason why this is because it dampens his powers, which is he can see the dead.
Yes.
And in one
like
scene,
like a Sixth Sense kind of way?
Kind of,
yeah. He can see any dead person and communicate with them.
And as he communicates with them, they can also communicate back to him.
Yes.
And one really kind of like dreadful scene, he wakes up somewhat sober, and you hear just like chorus of 1,000 screaming voices basically calling to him angrily, because they want him to hear them, and he does everything he can to try and block it out. It's through him that we're able to talk with number 6, and I will get back to number 5, but he talks to number 6.
The 6 is dead.
Their fallen brother,
Ben?
Ben, yep.
Yeah.
We're not really clear. I'm so far. I'm up to episode 5, which I believe you are as well.
Yeah.
So we've got 6 more episodes after that. So I'm sure we're gonna get filled out.
We don't know how he died.
We don't know how
yet.
we don't know how he died yet. We also don't know what the extent of his power is, except for
He seems to morph into a really horrible monster.
We see a scene from the bank robbery where he's like, "Oh, do I have to?
Do I
And
have to
like,
do this?
There's still more robbers in there," and so he goes into this room, and all you see through the glass pane that's
Just these shadows of like this, like
tentacles and screams and blood, and he walks out and he's just
and he's
drenched in blood.
Yeah.
So
Horrible.
interesting power. We don't really know what the full extent of that is. Moving back to number 5,
Yep.
he has the ability to jump through space, which he utilizes through most of his childhood, but wants to be able to jump through time, which he is warned by his father that he should not, adoptive father,
He's like Nightcrawler.
that he should not mess with jumping through time because it is much more random. It is not controllable.
Unstable.
It is unstable. Well, he, being a 13-year-old kid, decides, well, I'm going to do it anyways. He ends up jumping into the future, and that's where he discovers that the future doesn't exist. The whole world basically ends.
Everyone's dead.
By the time we see him again, he spent over 45 years in the future just trying to survive and figuring out a way to get back to
Somehow,
present
some
day.
way, he lost his ability to jump through time, and that's why he's stuck there. And yeah, but when
he does.
But when
he
he
does make-
when he
So
does
jumps
come back,
he jumps back. Is that where the time skip occurs? Like he jumps when he's young, and then he comes back.
Yes,
17
he ends up
years
coming back
after he jumped.
to our present day,
Right.
which ends up being 8 days before this supposed end of the world is going to come.
yes,
And for whatever reason, he got his equations wrong, and when he returned, he went back to his 13-year-old body, even though now all of
but
his
he's got like a
siblings are older.
50-some-odd-year-old awareness.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's another very interesting, very driven character. This
Yep.
is a man who's lived almost entirely on his own. Very intelligent, much more intelligent than any of his other siblings.
Yep.
And now he's trying to prevent this event from happening.
The end of the world
And
from
he
happening.
is just a take no crap kind of adult kid.
Yeah.
in the body of a child.
Yes.
And he's on a mission that really is kind of a take no prisoners approach,
Yeah.
which puts him in conflict with his siblings, who are much more idealistic at this point. And there are some very interesting antagonists, however, in this show.
We forgot one character.
Oh,
That's
oh yes,
that's only 6.
Number
Ellen
7.
Page. Ellen Page's character.
Ellen Page is in this show.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Which I am also not a big fan of Ellen Page.
As an actress or as a
I like her as an actress. I don't like her politics, and put it that way. But again, I put that all aside because it's about the characters.
about the character.
Not the actors. So she's doing a very good job at this kind of awkward portrayal of number 7, the 7th not student of the Umbrella Academy,
Who has
because
no
she
special
does not have any powers. She is remarkably unremarkable.
At
She-
least
which
as
is
far as we
clearly
know.
not the case.
As far as we know, she
As
is.
far as
Because
we
the
know.
one that doesn't have powers always ends up being the most powerful one.
Exactly.
Of them all, right?
So
Seems like if we're going with a standard story, that would probably be the case.
she spends her entire life in the shadow of her siblings,
Yes.
wishing to join them in the spotlight.
And she has,
she-
because she has written this book about her family.
Which is what kind of drives a wedge between her and the rest of her siblings, where she essentially reveals all the dirtiest secrets.
Tell-all book.
Yes. So we get in the first episode a very interesting family reunion. around the funeral of their some loved, some not so loved adoptive father.
Right.
Sure.
And from there,
And their mother, who has miraculously not aged because she is
One of
so she's an android.
Android.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and then of course we can't forget the
Oh.
hyper intelligent chimp butler.
Yes.
So we really
Pogo.
have-
How could we
Pogo.
forget
Yes.
Yes.
the chimp butler?
So we have quite an interesting, diverse set of characters.
It's a very interesting set of
Yes.
characters, and but the interestingness of these characters does not stop with the protagonists. The antagonists, I have found to be quite enjoyable. They've
Yeah.
endeared themselves to me in some ways.
Yeah, they really are kind of fun and funny.
Yep.
It's kind of like a couple of agents that are just like, one of them's like, oh, we just got to get through this job and get on to the next one, same as we always have. But then you got her partner who's just like totally, every second he complains about the management and oh, they did this so they could pay us less. And it's just like the dynamic between the two of them is absolutely fun.
Hazel and help me out, VOP. What's the name of the other agent?
Remind me, which agent are we talking about?
He's not paying attention.
Which agent?
What show are you talking about?
Umbrella Academy.
Which comic
Come
is
on.
this?
Yeah. Oh, what, I guess it was. Was it a comic?
What?
Or
It was a comic,
Cha-Cha,
yes.
yes.
Cha-Cha. Yeah. Cha-Cha and Hazel. Cha-Cha is a black woman. Hazel is a very large man
Who has.
who has a certain affinity to donuts
Yeah.
and a certain affinity to the woman who makes the donuts for him.
Yeah, it's kind of an awkward.
Which is
the
a
way
very...
he looks at her, I'm like,
But it's actually very endearing. It's like it's almost like they like each other, but it's also kind of sweet. It's
Yeah.
like a really sweet thing.
I
You have
like
to
a
see
good-
the show to understand it. It's not creepy or anything like that. It's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. It's cute.
Just the way you guys are
And-
smarting about it,
and-
it just kind of creeps me out a little bit.
Well, I don't know. The writer, I mean, I've never read the comic book before, and it makes me want to go back and scoop up the graphic novel.
I've seen a
read
couple
this.
of panels. Artwork is really nice. I'm not sure who worked on the comic.
It was written by
course you know.
Gerard Way.
Yep.
He relaunched a bunch of. He had that DC imprint for a while.
Yep.
The Young
Yep.
Animals.
Doom Patrol.
Yep.
Yep.
He wrote that. He used to be the lead singer of that emo band,
Chemical
Romance.
Romance. My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so far so good. We're only halfway through the show.
Hold on. Did
But-
they ever delve into what caused all these women to get pregnant at the same time, and then
We
two,
haven't
what
seen it
happened
yet.
to the rest of? You said there were 43 people that happened.
So
what
my,
happens to the
I
rest
don't know
37?
exactly what's going to happen. I have to assume that in future, whether they continue with the show or I don't know how far the comics have gone, but I'm sure, given
Yeah.
that there are so many other powered people out there, that we're going to find out exactly what caused this, and I'm sure a few of those people are going to show up as both allies and enemies alike.
But this
I'm gonna-
isn't at all a main part of the show at this point.
No, I would say that
yeah.
my hunch is that is going to probably not be addressed. They'll probably keep that part a mystery, at least for the first season. It's a 10-episode show.
It's like, hey, just go with it, guys.
I think they're spending more time just showing you the gaps between what happened to the individual characters from when they were children in this academy to where they are right now. So each episode after we get through the first 2 or 3 has been kind of centralized around one of the characters' pasts.
A la Lost.
Yeah, a little, exactly. Kind of that format. Still advances the current storyline. What's happening with the end of the world and the efforts but you're getting a little bit of a piece of that character's history each show. So so I don't know, but my wife is really enjoying the show, and she's a tough nut to crack with that stuff. So I'd say that's a pretty good testament to
That's
how
a nice
the quality.
recommendation.
Yeah,
It's
and-
gets Melissa's approval. It's probably solid.
Yeah, and also I think it shows that even though the show does not back down in terms of its more violent moments, there are some moments of violence and things like that for the people who are like really hardcore, like I want action, I want terror, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of heart in the show too, that really.
Klaus.
And then there's Klaus, yeah. But there's a lot for everyone in the show, like no matter what age group that you're in, that you're watching this, and male, female. There's a lot there for everybody in this. So well done. I can't wait to see more.
What was it? What did they have out so far on Netflix?
It's a 10-episode show.
Right.
And I've personally gone through 5 episodes myself.
Yeah.
As of the airing of this show.
So you have 1 season of this?
So 1 season so far.
Yep.
Yes. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Deadly Class?
Yeah. Story time.
So not a Netflix show. It's actually a sci-fi show.
Oh.
And I had no idea that sci-fi could get away with the amount of stuff that they can. But apparently it's late enough in the evening that they're getting away with dropping 4-letter words and copious amounts of blood. Deadly Class is super bloody. It's super gory and super violent.
I should imagine.
It's
Is it like Sharknado levels of ridiculous violence?
I couldn't tell you. I didn't see Sharknado.
Oh, that's
but
a
no,
shame.
it's probably not that level of violence. The violence, even though it's portrayed very, very realistically and viscerally, it's the action sequences obviously get into it, but it's not overtly gratuitously violent for the sake of being violent.
Yep.
Even though on occasion it is.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting, one of the things that they did purposely for the show, so the premise of the show is it's an academy for that trains assassins.
Yeah.
So a bunch of kids, most of them are like daughters of gang bosses, or they're in organized crime somehow, and they're just basically being trained to take over as like an enforcer or the head of the organization. But because it's set in a school setting, there's a lot of violence, but they purposefully don't have any of the characters use guns within the school.
Yeah.
Just trying to be sensitive to the whole school shooting thing. So, even though in the comic there are quite a bit of shootings in the school, but obviously kind of a sensitive topic. Anyways, this has nothing to do with the show. The show itself is about it's kind of like a Harry Potter kid, but instead of being an orphan, he's basically homeless. And he's been homeless on the streets for a long time. And there's this girl, Saya, who's a daughter of the Yakuza leader. And she sees him and sees that he has the potential to be a great assassin. So she basically recruits him to join the school. And from there, it's your typical kind of like Harry Potter or Naruto kind of thing, where it's a bunch of kids that are together and they're interacting. You got your different cliques, and some of them get along, some of them don't. And it's just about this kid Marcus trying to make his way through the school without getting killed. It's got a really solid cast. It's really violent. I decided to watch this over Umbrella Academy because Deadly Class is a comic that I've read. It was written by Rick Remender, who's one of my favorite authors. And I know he was working as, I don't know if he was a producer or like a supervisor on the show, but basically his job was there to make sure that his vision for Deadly Class was maintained when they translated it to TV.
Yep.
So watching the show, I noticed that it was strikingly similar to the comic, almost to the point of it being like, remember Sin City?
Yep.
The Frank Miller movie, comic adaptation. That was like a shot for shot, like panel for panel remake of the comics, which at first seemed really cool, but at the end, for somebody that's already read the source material, you're just kind of treading old ground, which I think is what Deadly Class the problem I had with Deadly Class at least, was that I'd seen these stories, I read them, and they're being basically just wrote on TV by live action characters. But if you haven't read the comic, you're in for some pretty good stuff because, like I said, it's a school for assassins, so these guys are getting into all sorts of shenanigans. They're like deadly hazing rituals, crazy school dances. They do a road trip to Las Vegas at one point, kind of like Fear and Loathing style, where Marcus eats a sheet of acid and things go way, way wrong.
I'm shocked. I mean, nothing ever bad happens when people down a sheet of acid, right?
Yeah, down a sheet of acid, head to Vegas.
The whole sheet?
What could go wrong?
Like an 8 by
What could
11?
possibly go wrong?
No, I think it was just like a 6x6, 3x3, I think.
Okay. I don't know anything about acid, so this means nothing to me.
Anyways, everyone else takes one, and they're all like out of their minds, and
Yeah.
he obviously loses his crap. But the basis of the show is that he's just trying to struggle through, and he has a very. I don't think you're ever supposed to actually root for the character of Marcus. He's kind of cynical. He's very anti-capitalist. There's a lot of stuff, like he has a running inner monologue that used to be just like written out on the comic, which works really well in the comic, but when you hear just someone kind of monologuing over, just random stuff happening in the school hallways, it loses a bit of the punch, because it's a different medium. So I kind of wish that they had changed it a little bit, just to make it, and I was going to ask you guys if you had read The Umbrella Academy to kind of compare whether or not they were, how close they stayed to the original material.
Can't juxtapose the two.
I actually only found out like 2 days ago that Umbrella Academy was originally a comic.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I probably would have checked it out. I mean, like I said, after finding that out, I looked it up and I got a couple of panels and stuff. And it's,
Well, we know one of our customers, so we'll give out a shout out to Chelsea. Chelsea, if you're out there, we know you're such a huge fan of the Umbrella Academy. So, I don't know, maybe we should invite you on a future show to talk about it. So, I don't
got a
know.
lot of
I will
content
talk to
there.
her about this.
Yeah, right. We could do that. But, yeah, no, I mean, I think that there's some real fertile ground out there with these indie titles,
Yeah.
and I haven't even scratched the surface of seeing some of the. I mean, I've not watched Preacher yet. I haven't seen. I mean, we've all watched Walking Dead, or at least part of it, right?
Yeah.
But
that's two examples of two more shows that have been popular, still remain popular.
Yep.
And while they're based off of source material, they've deviated from the original material
Yes.
in order to make the show
Yeah.
better for watching.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's my one beef with Deadly Class. Other than that, I think the characters are great. They got some really interesting characters. Marcus is probably the most unlikable character as the lead character. But there's the two girls, Saya, who's the head of the Yakuza, and Maria, who's head of the, oh God, I think it's, I want to say that the group's called like the Vatos Locos.
Careful, man. Don't
I
get it
know,
wrong.
I might, I might be really stepping in it right now.
They're like, you better say the name right.
But they're just really interesting characters. I'm about 6 episodes in, and they're really just starting to scratch the surface of us getting to learn the backstories of some of these more interesting characters.
And how many episodes are there in this show? Since it's on Sci-Fi, it's serialized. It's not. I mean, like in other words, you're not getting a whole season like on a streaming service, right? So you're.
Yeah, I think they were up to episode 5 or 6 when I stopped, and I'm pretty much caught up, I think. So I'm not sure how far the season goes. I'm sure it's probably like 12 episodes.
Yep.
But it's really cool.
Excellent.
I love the comic. I think it's a pretty true to comic adaptation. Some really good just ponderings about capitalism and fitting in, and just going with the gang or trying to fight against it. There's a lot of kind of like anarchist stuff in it. It's very punk rock. If I had to define it,
All right.
it was like 80s, 90s punk rock is how the show kind of feels like.
Okay. So real anti-establishment type of
it's real gritty,
stuff. Yeah.
and they really go for it.
Excellent. Interesting.
Really sticking it to the man in this one.
Yes, take that, man. The man.
The man.
Man.
Take that, the man.
Well, I think that's all we had for this episode, but we look forward to seeing what next month brings us. I'm sure we'll have a whole wealth of stuff to discuss. Hopefully we get a little bit more set pieces, right? Here.
Yeah.
Kind of spruce it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there a box above me right now? Over here? Over there?
No, there's
No?
not.
No boxes yet?
Not yet. No.
But there will be, right?
The YouTube boxes, right?
We'll see.
We'll see. All right.
We're definitely putting a pun jar in here, though. So.
Punjar must Yes,
Right.
Keep an eye
Center
out for that,
stage.
folks.
right there. Exactly. Everybody loves the pun jar.
Tune in for the pun jar.
So thank you again for watching. We appreciate it. And be sure to hit us up with some comments on YouTube on both our videos and let us know what you'd like for us to discuss. If you have questions about the things that we shared this month with you, we'd love to hear them. And if you disagree with anything we said, then send all correspondence to Tyler.
Yes, thank you.
All
very
right,
much.
so anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time.